1990 was a significant time in Trinidad and Tobago's history.
At about 6 p.m. yesterday evening, gunshots and explosions were heard in the area of Abercrombie Street and St. Vincent Street in Port of Spain.
Government officials, media personnel, and by extension, the country were held hostage for 6 days in a staging of an attempted coup in July of that year. Talk City 91.1 FM invites you to join us for the documentary The Lost Tapes, 1990 Attempted Coup, on Saturday, 27th July at 7:05 p.m. as we remember the events of those days and place you in the moment with digitally rendered recordings of NBS Radio 610's broadcast of the events that changed Trinidad and Tobago's landscape forever.
And we'd just like you to cooperate with everybody by staying at home, stay close to your radios, and put your hands together and pray for Trinidad and Tobago.
The Lost Tapes, 1990 Attempted Coup, the audio documentary. Saturday, 27th July, 2024. Exclusively on Talk City 91.1 FM.
Definitely a moment in history that has been captured and is going to be presented in the form of an audio documentary. The Lost Tapes. This morning I want to welcome the producer of The Lost Tapes and the documentary and the podcast that's going to be attached to it as well, Mr. Joseph Bertrand. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I am very intrigued by this series of tapes that you would have been able to get your hands on.
Yes.
And first of all, I need to know how did you get your hands on these recordings?
So, firstly, my mother, Charmaine Bertrand, she, while the 6 days was happening, she decided to record what was happening live on air.
Did she ever
This
say
is
why
Radio
she
610.
decided to record it?
Yes. Her husband, Gregory Bertrand, he was working at the airport at the time, and I was 4 months old. So she needed to have proper information to give to him and to the wider family. So what better way to do it than actually record what was happening? And after that, she saved them, and I was able to then get it from her and digitize them, and thus create this audio documentary.
Now, what was your inspiration to create the documentary out of it? When you heard it, what was your reaction?
Okay, the inspiration. I have a deep interest in Trinidad and Tobago's history. And my reaction, firstly, was that of calm. Listening to the presenters and understanding that this was a very, very chaotic time for the country. And one of my first reactions was calm because of the professionalism that the presenters gave and the decisions that they made on who to bring on and what was said, etc., in terms of the broadcasts and so on. I found that to be very interesting. And then in terms of researching, understanding where they were in relation to the Red House and to TTT, right smack dab in the middle. And they were doing a duty to the nation, and that intrigued me. Yeah.
And how was the process for you to say, all right, we digitizing this, we're putting together this story to tell? Because I imagine you're not just going to play 6 days of recording. That's not the plan.
No. So in putting it together, firstly, it began around 2004, actually. Yeah. I had the actual cassette tapes.
Which we see here on TV now.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
And those cassette tapes, I got my friend Akeem Romani to digitize for me. And he put them on CD at the time. And in continuing to listen to the tapes and cutting the clips and so forth, to then create a narrative around the recordings themselves. But I needed context.
Yeah.
So having interviewed persons like Dennis McComey, Jared Lampau, getting the real context behind these broadcasts, it was amazing to understand and thus try to present to Trinidad and Tobago, because I think that this story needs to be told.
Most definitely. Tell me what the narrative that you were able to pull out of it is.
Okay, so actually walking through these 6 days,
Right.
live and direct, because all of what you would hear in the audio documentary, the archival recordings, were presented live on air. So we have several things like the special broadcasts, the bulletins. We also have conversations between those who were taken hostage and the army, the special broadcasts to the wider nation, calling for the police, the nurses and so on to go out to work, because we need you there, these kinds of things. And also contextual things like when the Emancipation Support Committee, they had their events, those were cancelled. They spoke about the football. So we had all of those contextualized things happening as well. And the summit in Jamaica also, that is part and parcel of it. So we had a regional perspective. And true to form, we had several persons coming on air, like the Roman Catholic Archbishop at the time, Anthony Pantin, coming to say prayer, giving prayers. We have different denominations of religions coming as well to offer prayer. So it is a fantastic view on the actual 6 days.
On that moment in history, because we hear from different perspectives all the time. We saw recently where even the police did the code, the Code 737, I don't remember the exact title, but they did their version of the coup from the police perspective. So this would be now from the media perspective.
From media perspective, and specifically Radio 610. Specifically. Because we also have those in print who continue to work as well. And we also have the
TV situation. We know what happened here at TTT.
Exactly.
What did you learn along this journey?
I learned quite a lot about Trinidad and Tobago. So, for example, after the attempted coup d'etat, the police then started to carry guns. And I've grown up knowing police with guns and understanding that that wasn't the case before. That is a lot to take in and to understand, because if we don't see them with them now, it's like, what is going on?
Exactly, because and the irony of that is that David Rudder's song "Huse," which I opened the show with this morning, he says now Trini knows what is Uzi diplomacy. And those lines in that verse particularly says that during the 1990 coup is when we were introduced to guns in a whole different way, and that changed the landscape of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes. And one of the major things that I learned is the power of the media in national crisis. The thing is that the professionalism and the manner in which they presented the information, they were able, I think, to keep the community and the country calm, well-informed, and able to facilitate conversation that assisted in bringing a resolution to the 6-day crisis. All of that is part and parcel of the audio documentary.
What do you hope to do with this audio documentary? I know we're going to be airing it on Talk City 91.1 FM at 7:05 p.m.
At 7:05 p.m.
on July 27th itself, which is the anniversary of the coup.
34 years later.
34 years later, wow.
Yes. And
what else do you hope happens with it?
And I also have a lecture on the 24th of July, which is the Wednesday before, which would go a little deeper into my process and also more of the recordings that would not have made the audio documentary, because again, it can't be 6 days.
That's be a bit of a lot. But I also understand that you're doing a podcast series as well.
Yes, so the podcast is amplifying the voices of the Radio 610 presenters, and I've had interviews with several of them already, and putting that together to further contextualize Radio 610's role in 1990.
So that's who some of the presenters are that you would have spoken with already and who you hope to speak with still.
Okay, so Gerard Lampau, for example, is one who actually came out of the University of the West Indies just 2 weeks before. This is his first post at Radio 610, and here we have national crisis. Dennis Mukomi, Sharon Pitt, and we know Dennis Mukomi's ability to turn and bring calm, essentially. And it was fantastic. And the entire team, Kelly Buckrady as well, I spoke to get an understanding of the technical side of radio. So a lot of this and so much more would come out of it. I have interviews done by Dennis Mukomi with then Prime Minister A.N.R. Robinson, speaking about his experience as well. So
Wow, this is absolutely amazing. Where can we get access to the podcast series?
So eventually we will have it up on Spotify.
Okay.
Yes.
So the idea is that we go to Spotify to be able to get it. And then Talk City 91.1 FM, that would be on the Saturday, the 27th of July.
Saturday, 27th of July at 7:05 p.m. And on the 24th of July, this is Wednesday, next week Wednesday, at 5 p.m. at Mille Fleurs would be the lecture.
Tell me, what sort of support do you need for this? Because I imagine that this is a lot of work. You said since 2004 you've been working on this. This is a lot of time. And there must be a cost to the digital rendering, to the podcasting, to the researching. There's a cost to all these things.
Yes.
How is this being paid for?
Well, so far by me. But it is a labor of love. The production costs are there, yes. But I hope that we would have some level of sponsorship towards it.
How can they reach out to you to provide some level of sponsorship?
All right, so there's 354-4419, Joseph Bertrand, just give me a buzz, and we'd be able to have a conversation based on the sponsorship for it.
Joseph, thank you so much for doing this work, for bringing us this little piece of our history to the forefront, for making sure that we remember it and we can use it as an educational tool going forward as well. So thank you very much for that work, and please keep it up.
And thank you very much.
No problem at all. Ladies and gentlemen, we get ready to take a break and come back with more